In the UK, around 63% of adults are living with being overweight or obesity, and almost 1 in 4 children aged 10 to 11 are living with obesity. And that means for so many families, these challenges don't just affect one person, they ripple through households, shaping how kids see food, movement, and self worth. And when you're a parent, looking after yourself can sometimes feel impossible, and you're just trying to look after everyone else. So that's why today's conversation is such an important one. We're going to talk honestly about the reality of balance in family life, parenting, and your own health journey, including the guilt, the pressures, and the moments of joy that this journey can bring. So let's roll the intro and get into it before I introduce you to today's special guest. Welcome to This Is My Journey, the podcast where real people share real stories of transformation, resilience, and growth. I'm Marc, and after navigating my own path through major lifestyle change, I created this space to open up honest conversations around identity, mindset, and what it really takes to evolve. So along the way, we'll also hear from professionals, from pharmacists to psychologists and fitness experts who help us make sense of the science and support behind these journeys. So whether you're just starting out, deep in the process, or you're finding your footing after big change, you are not alone. This is your place. This is my journey. Let's walk it together. Welcome back, everyone, and today I'm joined by someone who has been and is a huge inspiration to me and my own journey. My friend Emma. Emma has been on her own journey over the past year, losing 8.5 stone while raising her 2 young girls. She has embraced fitness, found new routines that work for her and her family, and has shown what it looks like to really prioritize your health while still being there for your family. And what I admire most about Emma is her honesty, her humor. She is so funny, and the way she has opened up about the realities of parenting and just balance and making time for herself again. So, Emma, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Hi, Mac. Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy that you've been able to give up some of your time because I know how busy mum life can be and working life can be. So yes, I'm really, really, really chuffed that you've been able to join me. For those maybe who don't know you yet, I know a lot of people do know you from TikTok and things like that. Tell us a little just a bit about you and what really first inspired you to kind of begin that journey with a GLP-1.
I live in Yorkshire with my husband and my 2 little girls. They are aged 4 and 6. So it's a bit of a madhouse here, to be honest. I work full time as well, so full-time working mum, and I have an office job, which doesn't lend itself very well to
Mhm.
exercise and things, does it? I've always struggled with my weight since late teens, really.
Yeah.
So, I've done the usual, been on some diets, on, off, weight's fluctuated, but always kind of been a bit of a problem in
Yeah.
my life. That got progressively worse then after I'd had children, because it's just quite hard to get out and about and plan time to really focus on yourself really after children. So weight skyrocketed then. And this time, however, I've managed to find something that's worked for me. And I've got a story. I have a
Oh,
story. I always
oh,
have a story, don't
yeah,
I?
stories. Go, hit us with it.
Okay, I'll take you back to May 2024, and I took the children down to Paulton's Park. So some of you might know Peppa Pig World.
Oh,
We went to Peppa Pig World. Have you not been, Mark?
no, definitely not. I don't think it's my type of place. Maybe in the future with my nephew, but not right now.
It's not your vibe. Yeah, well, it's my vibe right now.
Oh,
So I
no.
took my children to Peppa Pig World, and we did all the rides. Everything was fine, and that's part of a bigger theme park, Paulton's Park,
Okay.
and my 5-year-old wanted to go on some of the bigger rides. And so we're like, yeah, okay. So I was starting to get a little bit nervous because that would be me at my heaviest. So I'm thinking, oh gosh, am I going to be able to go on these rides? So I kind
Right.
of
Yeah.
was saying, like, I don't really fancy it. Go on with your dad. Go on with your dad. It'll be fine. And then my husband, though, I think he knew that I was a little bit nervous about it. And there was this ride, and he was like, oh, don't worry, Emma, you'll be fine. The
Yeah. Yeah.
seat's plenty big enough. And my daughter wanted to go on it a second time. So I took her on this ride. And when we got into the seats, oh my goodness, it was so tight. And it took two of them to push the seat. And click it in place. And I was absolutely mortified because my daughter was there. She didn't really understand what was going on. They
Yeah.
did manage to click it in just, but all the way around this ride, I was terrified it was going to spring up, and it was really high as well. Absolutely terrified that I was going to spring up and then I was going to free fall back to the ground. But anyway, so I didn't really enjoy it. We
Yeah.
get back, and I was in such a rush to get off the ride that I banged my knee and really hurt it. And I was just
Mhm.
trying to get off the ride as quickly.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
when you just kind of, I'm walking away from this ride, and I just felt so awful because I just thought, what would I have done
Yeah.
if they hadn't have been able to click that ride in place? How would have I explained that to my 5-year-old daughter? Oh, sorry, we have to get off the ride. The idea of explaining that to her was just unthinkable. And
Yeah.
right there and then, I thought, I am going to do something about my weight and my health, because I do not want my children to have to miss out on something or feel embarrassed or
Yeah.
may have to have a tough conversation because of my weight.
Yeah.
Up until then, it felt like it had been my problem to manage, but I
Mhm.
felt in that moment that it was becoming their problem.
Yeah.
And right there and then, I thought, this is the last time this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And when I got back from that holiday, I Googled Mounjaro, and the rest is history.
Amazing. And do you know what? That story is really resonating with me because I kind of had something similar happen, but it wasn't really with me. It was with my dad. I'm sure you won't mind me sharing this, but literally, I can remember it. It was years ago, and we went to this theme park that was in my local town at the time, and he we got on it. It was called Aladdin's Magic Carpet. And literally, it was just like a swing. It swung you up into the air and then back down again. But there was a bar that went down in front of you. And I remember being in the same seat as him, and the bar wouldn't go down. And I thought it had clicked, and it hadn't clicked. And we went up, and the bar came forward, and I was just clinging on to the bar in the middle of the air. It was really, really crazy. And I just remember being really almost mentally scarred by the time I got off. And everybody thought it was hilarious when I got off because of I was like deep breathing, eyes closed, and my mum and all thought it was hilarious. They didn't actually realize what had happened. And I don't think my dad knew kind of how rough the ride would be. And yeah, I remember I'll always go back to that moment. And for my dad, it's probably one of them moments that he realized he was really like overweight and things like that because that bar wouldn't actually go down. But it actually compromised our safety and stuff and all that there as well. So there's so much more to it. At least the bar went down for you and that everybody was safe and all that there. And things in them exact moments, it happens so quickly as well that you don't because I did often ask my dad, why did you not say something? But when you get on them rounds, it's just like they're trying to get as many people on as they can, and then it's like, does it click? Does it down? Off we go kind of thing. So no, I completely get that. And I think yeah, for you that is a really big kind of realization and moment. That's probably well, I suppose for you it was that epiphany moment that I need to do something about my weight and things like that. So yeah, fast forward to now and you have lost 8.5 stone. Amazing. I know what it's like, but for anybody that's listening, what has that process been like for you losing that weight over, that space of time?
It was a long process, that's
Yeah.
for sure. And actually, as well, just to say about that story that you just told, that is exactly the point that I want to prove, in that you have that story about your dad, and I
Yeah.
don't want my children to have that sort of
Yeah.
story about me.
Yeah.
Luckily, she
Yeah.
won't
Yeah.
remember. She won't remember at 5.
No, no,
So I'm
no.
okay.
Yeah.
But yes, absolutely. It has been long. So yeah, so I started in right at the end of May. 2024. So Mounjaro was not as mainstream, I suppose,
No.
as it was now. The use of GLP-1 medication, I don't think was as talked about then.
Yeah.
I was definitely, as we know, as we call them, a secret jabber at the time. Apart from with my husband, he's known
I
from day
hear.
dot. But yeah, so that took, I wanted to do a little bit of research. I was very anxious about that to begin with. But yeah, it has been, it's what I'd kind of decided right from the beginning was that I wanted my journey to be sustainable. And I wanted to make sure that I put those healthy habits in place right from the beginning, even if that meant that my journey took longer,
Yeah.
because I always knew that I had a long way to go. I knew that I was looking at kind of like a 9 stone-ish loss because I'm not quite there yet.
Yeah.
So that's why right from the beginning I joined the gym. I started strength training. Reason I did once I got settled into the gym, I started with some strength training quite early on, and I've always made sure that I have the ability to be able to eat 3 meals a day, so that it gives me the opportunity to really build and bed down those good habits
Yeah.
right from the beginning. What does a healthy meal look like? How many snacks is a normal amount of snacks to have? How do I work my exercise routines into my overall week so that when I get to where I want to be, hopefully I won't have to change anything.
You started your journey just before I did, and even when I started mine in August, I found it really, really like the information about these kind of medications and stuff wasn't really widely available, which kind of led me to TikTok because that's kind of where the information was. So, you know, just out of curiosity, where did you kind of find out about it? Was it like social media, or had you known about it before then, or
I think I'd seen a news article in
yeah,
the BBC,
yeah,
which was just talking about GLP. I think it was actually about Wegovy at the
yeah,
time,
yeah.
and I just
There
googled
you
weight loss injections,
go.
and I remember the first entry was boots. When I looked at the prices, I thought, oh my goodness. Then you do a little bit more research,
Yeah.
into the different options available to you, the support, things
Aye.
like that. Back in the good old days when I first started, the advice was a lot different. I
Yeah,
think back then, the assumption was that you would go up your doses 1 month at a time,
yeah,
and that you would end up on 15 milligrams after 6 months.
yeah,
But obviously, so I was reflecting only the other day about how much has actually changed and
yeah,
how much more we know about how this medication can be worked into
yeah.
a healthy lifestyle now.
I suppose it's like anything, that information, as more people are on it, more information does become available, and there's a wider sort of case study of people. So, I definitely think when we started, it was hard in a way because the information wasn't there, and as you say, like yeah, it wasn't almost encouraged to go up a dose every single month, and obviously that's very different now. It's if there's a dose that's working for you, stay on it as long as you kind of can. Kind of just leading on to sort of my next question then, for for you, what does like a typical week in the life of Emma as, somebody that goes to the gym, is a mom and everything else that you do in terms of work and all that there, what does a typical week look like for you? Because I'm sure there's so many people that will listen to this that will relate as mums or as parents.
It all starts with my big whiteboard in the kitchen.
Oh,
I'll
have you got
send
a
you a picture.
whiteboard?
I've got a massive whiteboard.
Oh, I love that.
People come to my house and they know they're in for a fun time once they see that whiteboard.
Back to school.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a massive whiteboard, and that's my job on a Sunday is to plan the week ahead. So my husband's also on a health journey as well,
Okay.
although he's not on a GLP-1.
Yeah.
And but we plan when we're each going to go to the gym. So I'll just kind of add in all the social things that we're all up
Yeah.
to, what needs to happen, school runs, things like that. Then once I've got all of that in, I will have a look at exercise and when can I fit that in. I've got some stuff that I have all the time. So like I always go to my club size class on a Monday. I always go to like a circuits thing that I do on a Friday, and I have a PT session that I do on my work from home day in my lunch hour. So
Mhm.
they're all the things that are like bedded in,
Yeah.
and they're all already work around the kids' schedule. And then I have other things that will try and fit in as and when. It's just really about having a joint conversation with my
Yeah.
husband about like, okay, I need to fit a gym session in this weekend. When can we do that? Or it might be like, oh, we're going out for tea that day. Where can we go? What could we eat? Right, we need to plan dinner. Can we batch cook something? So we'll just have a bit of a chat. Or rather, shall I say, I decide and then I tell him.
The boss
what he's
decides.
doing. Yeah. So you are going to the gym on these suboptimal times because I have the best ones. But yeah, in terms of my routine, I go to the gym 3 times a week. Most of the time that I go to the gym is actually before the children wake up. So my kids get up kind of roughly 6:45-ish. I go to the gym at 6, so I will be back by kind of 7:15, do like roughly an hour, maybe a little more. So from the kids' perspective, they don't even really know. They just know that I'm coming in roughly as
Yeah,
they're coming down. So they'll just be watching cartoons or something, and I'll walk in.
yeah,
And my class that I do on Mondays after they go to bed anyway. So a lot of my exercise is actually around their schedule. And yeah, so then, like I said, I'll batch cook and things, but they don't really know that because they're quite young. So they haven't really noticed in terms of food that we're doing things a little bit differently. It's just all
differently.
the planning. But yeah, those hours, 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. are very precious to me because that's when I'll get all the prep done, all the planning, and potentially my exercise as well.
Yeah. No, you kind of mentioned there about the batch cooking and stuff and all that there. How has your journey changed, your approach really to family meals and like cooking at home? Has much changed? Obviously, you're talking about batch cooking. Did you do that before, or is this just a new thing?
We did a little bit of batch cooking, but it was probably more from a convenience aspect rather than
Yeah.
thinking about what a balanced meal would be.
Mhm.
So it's a little bit more targeted now. So when I will sit down at a certain time each week and plan what we're going to have to eat the following week. Yes, it's not necessarily the most exciting way to live one's life, but never mind. But yeah, so we'll plan what we're going to eat, and yeah, when I'm batch cooking, I will be trying to make sure that it's balanced. I also try and have a few more meals at home because we did used to go out to eat quite a lot,
Yeah.
whereas now I find it's a little bit easier to control. So it's just like little tweaks. So say if I'm meeting my friends, I might be like, shall we go for a coffee or should we go for a drink rather than should we go for a meal? Because
For
I would
me.
much rather have that at home
Yeah.
where I can control that aspect
Yeah.
and then meet them, even if I'm still having a delicious cake or something,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just all that little bit of a balance.
Balance, yeah. You sort of said something that I would do quite regularly too, and it's just finding maybe a little alternative if you are going to do them meals out and things like that, like going to a coffee shop or maybe doing something that's not going to have something that's huge in calories and all that there. But I suppose, there are times that you do have to go to dinner and stuff, and I suppose in them instances it's just about picking something that's maybe slightly healthier. Obviously, there is still time in our lifestyles and things like that now where you still have to allow yourself little treats here and there and all that there.
I think understanding food a little bit better has really helped me in
Yeah,
that regards because a lot of the restaurants do have things like calories on there, but they wouldn't have the underlying nutritional information,
yeah,
things like
yeah,
protein. But
yes,
even if that's not available, it's because I understand now what a good meal would look
look
like. I
like,
can
yeah,
make those decisions myself. So if I'm looking
yeah,
at a menu, I might be like, okay, well, they've got chicken breast here with new potatoes and vegetables. So that's my protein, that's my carbs, bit of vegetables, rather than maybe before where I might have gone with pasta or
yeah,
pizza.
yeah. Many parents I know just from doing social media and stuff, feel guilty, I suppose, about taking time for themselves during this journey. Did you feel that yourself, or and if you did, how did you work through it?
I don't think it's necessarily like just from a guilty aspect of thinking about the time. It's the finances as well,
Yeah,
particularly if you're on a GLP-1
yeah,
medication because they're not cheap.
cheap. Yeah,
So yes, I do have times where I feel a little bit guilty. I think we all do as
mhm,
parents about
yeah,
everything we do ever.
yeah,
So how I worked through is to think about the fact that I am actually doing it for them. If I go right back to my
yeah,
story about Peppa Pig World, my Peppa Pig
yeah.
World story, then I made that decision because I had my children in mind when I'm doing that.
Yes, yeah,
And me maybe having to take a little bit of time out for the gym or maybe not going out as much for food is one of the very, very small amount of downsides from their aspect. But they get so many positive things from me being on the health journey that I'm on.
yes,
They get a more active mother, a more present mother, somebody who is going to take them out, do more things out of the house, just generally being happier myself, which
yeah,
makes me a better parent.
yeah. I know there's that saying happy wife, happy life, but it's kind of the same thing. Like, if you feel good about yourself, then that's going to translate to every other aspect of your life and parenting and looking after your kids they're going to benefit from that. What role then has your support network, so say for example, whether family, friends, or even just the online community on TikTok played in the success that you have had in your journey in losing weight?
Oh, such a huge part. My husband's been such an advocate, and he has been so supportive all the way through, right from the beginning when I wasn't really sure about these medications. And you do your
Yeah,
research, you think, and then at the time I'm thinking, oh goodness, that's it's a lot of money to spend. Can we do this? And he's like, give it a try. Done the research with me. He's such an expert now, and he's never even
yeah.
taken one in his life. So that moral support is
Yeah,
amazing, and the online community is absolutely fantastic. It's the tip sharing, sharing those wins, having somewhere to share your wins so that you don't talk
yeah,
the ears off your family and friends all the
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah,
But also just that feeling that you're not alone. Lots of people have similar stories to me. You just gave me a very similar story
yeah,
earlier. Lots
yeah,
of people come to you and you think, actually, it's not just me. I'm not this one person
mhm,
that's feeling the way that I do,
yeah,
looks at food the way that I do,
yeah,
because you might maybe think, why am I the only person that can't seem to get it together? And when
yeah,
I'm out and I'm eating extra food or I'm putting all this weight on, and it's so nice. Obviously, like it's sad
yeah.
because we've all had the same struggles, but it's nice to know that you're not alone and it isn't just you, and that there are lots of people out there that feel the same way.
You said something that was quite interesting, and I think, that online community aspect, I definitely think having that has really saved me because normally whenever I was doing maybe something similar to what I'm doing now in terms of trying to healthy eat or part of maybe one of them programs like Slimming World or Weight Watchers or whatever, you know, you rely on your family and your friends at them points to, and you do talk the ear off them because literally, I don't know, for me, food consumed my head when I'm on a diet. Literally, food is all I think about, and that's all I talk about. Like, what am I going to have for breakfast? What am I going to have for dinner? What am I going to have for lunch or whatever? And I think definitely with having this online community and having people that are in this have shared similar experiences to you, and you're able to talk about them and talk about what's worked for you and what hasn't worked for you and all that there, and being able to relate to them people. This is the first time for me on my journey that I have really realized how many of us are in a very similar situation and experience the same things. And previously, where I maybe would have thought I was very outside the norm of being healthy, and because I don't like, I was going to say skinny, but I've said it before, I don't really like it. I prefer to say healthier. And where you would have maybe been on the outside of that, actually being on this journey and seeing how wide it is on social media has made me sort of feel like I'm more a part of something that I actually didn't realize I was a part of without them people. I think I'd, people like you that I bend the ear of daily, in terms of talking about our journeys and all that there, thank God I have them people because, I'm sure you're the same. Like if you were talking to anybody else, the amount that we talk to each other about, how's your suppression this week, or how's your, how are you getting on, if you have any side effects? If you were talking to anybody else, they get bored of listening to you, but we never get bored of listening to each other because we're all going through the same experience. So it's really, really lovely, I think, to have that community and that, I suppose, people you can relate to your experiences.
Yeah, it's
Eh,
such a new thing.
Yes.
The particularly those that are taking GLP-1, but
Yeah.
even just I think sharing that journey online, I think a
Yeah.
lot of that it's a relatively new thing,
Yeah.
and there isn't a lot of information out there. And sometimes it's not always the medical stuff that you're wanting to know; it's the
Exactly.
anecdotal things
Yeah.
about how people are doing.
Mm,
That community is so important to me, and I'm
yeah.
so grateful that I'm part of it. When I think about how I felt back in May when I didn't
Yeah.
know that it was there,
Yeah.
I'm much happier now.
Talking about your journey then, what unique kind of challenges then do you think parents, or you in particularly, have faced, compared to maybe others on a similar journey?
I think the time aspect is really tough,
Yeah.
and I do appreciate that even me as a parent, it would be there are going to be people that have it even tougher than me, for instance, single
Yeah.
parents,
Yeah.
because I do have my husband that I can lean on,
Yeah.
and he's thankfully very understanding because he's on a journey like that himself.
Hmm.
The time aspect, it is tricky, and
Yeah.
sometimes it is. I am just literally looking at maybe bored, like, oh goodness, how am I going to fit this weekend's gym in?
Yeah.
And sometimes you do just have to take that approach of actually it's not going to happen this
Yeah.
weekend because the children have XYZ on. So what am I going to do instead? Or, how am I going to negate that? Or how am I going to make sure that I make a good start next week and get back
Yeah.
to my healthy regime as it is? And I
Yeah.
think that you do have limitations with cooking. Again, I am really fortunate that my children are fairly chill with what they will eat. And
Yeah.
I know that a lot of children are not like that. So again, it's potentially even slightly easier for me, but children won't necessarily always just eat whatever you put in front of them. So if I decide that I'm going to have chicken breast 5 days in a row, my kids might decide on day 4, actually, I don't like chicken breast. I've never liked chicken breast. Why would you serve me this, mother?
Again, there'll be a lot of people and a lot of parents that can relate to that, and also, maybe listen and think, oh, you do have it a lot easier than what I have it, or vice versa. Some people, might think they even have it easier than what you have it. Do you know what I mean? I think it is very different, I think, for most people. And I think the main thing I'd want to say around it is probably, I don't have children myself, but be kind to yourself in terms of, that's a bit of pressure on yourself as well. If you're not making that gym session or whatever, it's okay to miss one, because one session isn't going to rock the boat that much in the scheme of things. Maybe 2 or 3 weeks of not going will set you back a little, but one session's not going to do that. And I think, yes, you got to prioritize you, but your schedule's easily fixed down the line, and things, you can move things about, and all that there. So let's try not to be too hard on yourself when things like that happen.
I do need to be better with that. It is something that I've been saying from the beginning, because I do tend to catastrophize sometimes and think, oh, I've missed this gym session. I'm
Uh,
just so frightened that one might turn into 2 and 3. And I'm sure you felt the same way
yeah,
if something's got in the way of you doing something that's
yeah,
been part of your new routine. You do worry about that. But I need to have trust in myself
yeah,
that, I've been going for 15 months now. Why would I just suddenly stop going to the gym or stop eating
yeah,
all of the new habits, foods that I've
yeah,
found
yeah.
when I've been doing it for 15 months? So I need to trust me.
Going away on holiday or anything like that, you maybe take a week off doing something, and then you come back, and it is very hard to get back on that wagon. And I know, you went on holiday and you still kept the gym up and stuff and all that there. And I think, you know, is there any advice that you would want to give anybody around that? And
Yeah, so this is something specific, and I'm not necessarily suggesting that everybody does this, but
yeah,
it's what I think what it is using the time to examine yourself and where your triggers have been.
yeah,
And I realized that holidays, when I think back to previous times when I've been on a health journey,
yeah,
holidays are a massive trigger for me,
yeah,
because when I've thought back to the times when I've had big bounce backs with my weight, it's always been after a holiday.
yeah,
So the best example I can come up with is that in 2023, I went to Orlando and I'd just lost 3 stone. And I had 2 weeks of eating whatever I wanted. Obviously, it's American portions as well.
yeah,
I came back and I'd just had 2 weeks of having 3 massive meals a day and donuts and chips and everything. I didn't want to go back to having all the things that I was eating before. So I thought, "Do you know what? I'll start it again next month. I'll be kind to myself." 9 months later, I'd put that whole 3 stone back on and more.
and you know what?
Um,
We all will relate to that story. I know I do multiple times.
yeah, it's and again, back to the online community, that's when you realize it's not just you. We all
No,
do it.
yeah, no, exactly.
So for me, holidays are a trigger. So I thought, okay, what can I do? What things can I do to make sure that I still enjoy my holiday, but I can try and negate that trigger as best I can? And I
Yeah,
decided that I would have 2 meals a day. I would try and be mindful about what I ate, breakfast and lunch in my case. I didn't completely, I didn't only have salads or anything like that, but I
yeah,
just tried to be a little bit mindful, made sure that I had a portion of veg and things like that. And 1 meal a day, I would have whatever I liked, and I wouldn't feel guilty or anything like that. And I
yeah,
would still have drinks and snacks and things like that. And I decided that I would try and go to the gym on the days that I would normally have gone. but that I would take it easy in terms of the actual exercise because it's very hot and
Yeah.
I've been eating different foods and probably not sleeping the same. But I felt that if I just went, there's the act of putting on my workout gear, walking to the gym and just doing something in the gym, even if it was just half an hour, just kept that routine going so that then when I came back, I'm just going to the gym, same as I did the day
Yeah.
before, even though, as definitely demonstrated when on my first workout when I came back, I'm definitely not doing the same. The actual act of going, because as we know from times when we've fallen off the wagon with the gym, the hardest part is actually walking through the door.
Yeah. 100%. I suppose just a little stat then, just to kind of get your thoughts on it. So the NHS released figures 2023, 2024. I don't think there's any more updated than that. So in the UK, nearly 1 in 4 children aged 10 to 11 live with obesity, which to me is, it is quite high, 1 in 4. So do you feel that, working on your own health at the minute has influenced your children's relationship with food and activity, or, what's your kind of thoughts around that?
It 100% has. So I have never sat down and had a conversation with the kids. They're too
Yeah,
young,
too
but
young.
like I said,
Yeah,
they're 4 and 6, so they wouldn't
yeah,
understand. I've never spoken to them about anything. It's just something that's happened.
yeah.
However, the children have picked up on it. I a few weeks ago, my youngest was rattling a. She'd got this like box and she was rattling it, and I was like, "What are you doing?" She says, "I'm making a protein shake, mummy, and going to the gym." It's like, oh, that's really
Oh,
cute.
that's
But
cute. Yeah,
obviously, why would I speak to my child about a protein
yeah,
shake?
yeah,
But she's
yeah,
obviously just observed that. And I think that's so interesting because it
yeah,
means they're picking up on those habits, whether you speak to them about it or not, which
yeah,
works both ways.
yeah.
They also eat a lot more fruit and veg just simply because we have more of that in the house because
Nice.
I'm eating it. And my youngest would not eat much in the way of fruit and vegetables before, but now she will eat. She loves cucumber. I have to serve cucumber with. I have to buy big cucumbers every week for her. Oh, and we also play a game now. Well, it doesn't have a name or anything, but we talk about the superpowers that food have, and
Oh,
so like as I'm making dinner and prepping whatever, they'll say, what does milk do? And I'll say, oh, milk helps your bones stay healthy. Or they might say, like, what does broccoli do? Then you have to sit there and be like, what does broccoli do? To quickly decide. So I might say something like, "Oh, it helps you grow big and strong," or I might say it stops you being poorly.
yeah.
So I'll just have to think, but it helps me because that means I'm thinking about what's
Yes.
in the food, and the kind of the message that I'm trying to give the children is that all food has a purpose.
Yeah.
They've asked me what sweets do, and I tell them that sweets give energy.
Hmm.
And we have chats about how every food's got a place
Yeah.
in everybody's diet, but the amounts of foods that you might have, some foods might be like more of a treat, some things are things you have every day. And now they'll repeat that back to me. So if they see me, I don't know, buttering some bread, they might say, "Oh, look, we're having bread because that helps you feel full." Something like that. So they're learning about the purpose of food and how that all builds into a healthy lifestyle as well.
You've shared already that you've really embraced fitness, which you've done a lot more than I have because really, yes, I have been walking every other day and all that there, but really the muscle aspect and toning and things hasn't been something I've really done up until I've sort of got to that goal. So you've been doing that, quite consistently through your journey. What does exercise give you now, and how do you fit that into family life
So I think exercise, it really just gives me a time to do something just for me.
for you?
It's
Yeah.
time for me, and it's a time to give my brain a rest because it's always like worrying
Yeah.
about all the different things that I have to do, all that mental
Checklists.
load. Yeah, many lists. So what I find when I go to the gym and I get on that stepper, that's just the first thing I do. The biggest worry that I have in those 20 minutes is whether I'm going to be able to get to the end of the 20 minutes without collapsing. And how am I doing and what's my heart rate like and what song's going to be next on my
Yeah.
playlist,
Playlist.
all
Yeah.
that. I'm not worrying about school uniform and laundry and pickups and parties and all the things I've got to do because I'm just trying to get through the next 20
Yeah.
minutes.
Exactly.
And also, like, not gonna lie, when the kids are kicking off, but it's my turn to go to the gym, I'll just be like, oh, bye. It's not the worst thing.
No, definitely not.
Um, You just have to be really organized with it. And it also, I find it's very helpful having the children because I have to plan it all in advance. So it
Yeah,
means that I have to go. When I've said that I'm going, I've got to go because that's my opportunity to go.
to go. Yeah. The planning, I know it's been kind of a theme in what you've been saying here. The planning aspect of this and family life and stuff is key to kind of your success on this journey. Prioritizing, specific time for you, specific time for the kids. And yeah, I think that's probably one of the key takeaways. If any other parents are listening to this and are thinking about starting their own journey with a GLP-1 or, getting fit, what is that one piece of advice you would want them to take away from your story?
I would say use your children's love of routine to your advantage because fitting in your exercise and all your meal plans, kids love repetitiveness.
Yeah.
They feel safe with in that kind of environment. So absolutely capitalize on that and make sure that then if you're going to set yourself up with a predictable routine for your exercise and your meal plannings, things like that, you have got great opportunity as a parent to find some really solid time to get that done, provided you've got the support, of course. I do appreciate that
Yeah.
that's not necessarily the case for everybody. Even if you don't, and this is something that I've noticed, like for me, I procrastinated for a couple of years thinking, I didn't have time, things like that, or I couldn't leave the house because I've got the children. There are little things you can still do at home. I don't know if there's a YouTuber called Get Fit with Rick. He does really, really good step workouts. You can do those in your home after the kids have gone to bed. Get your steps in. If you can't go out for a walk, there will be little things you can do. And if you've got a good sleeper, fingers crossed, your kids are going to go to bed at 7, 8 o'clock, and you've got a couple of hours, then you can get that done, even if that's the only time you can do it. Kids are predictable, so use that to your advantage.
No, I think that's really, really sound advice for anybody that's listening. And, you know, obviously for kids, routine is such a key part of a day to day. So yeah, definitely I think, it's not something I can relate to because I don't have kids, but I do have a nephew and he does thrive on routine. So I can completely, you know, get what you're saying, and I'm sure that it'll be, so many people will be able to relate to that. So just before we wrap things up, I kind of just want to say again, thank you so much, Emma, for sharing your journey around GLP-1, family life, all that there sort of area. It's such an important part, I think, of this journey, and there's so many people that will be able to relate to what you've been saying, and really, really fantastic takeaways and things that people can implement in their day to day, from your own experience. So I just kind of want to finish on what is kind of next for you. Obviously, for anybody that doesn't follow you or anything on social media, let us all know what your handles are here so everybody can follow you. What is next for you on the horizon? How far away from goal are you? What is your plans?
I do document my journey on TikTok and Instagram. I have the same handle. It's Emma's Health Mission. So Emma's with an S on the end, Health Mission, all one word, across both platforms. So what I tend to do on there is I document my own journey and I try my best to be funny. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We'll see.
You're just naturally funny. You don't even need to try. So
So even if I can just brighten up your day that tiny little bit, I try anyway. So do drop me a follow and a message as well. I will always try and aim to be approachable and help, as I've been at this for a little while now. So hopefully you can find me there. In terms of what's next for me, so I am round about a stone-ish from my goal. So soon I will be looking to taper down from Mounjaro as I would like to, well, ideally, I'd love to come off the medication and see how I get on, but at the very least, be on a lower dose than I'm on now. So tune in to my socials because that could be interesting.
yes. 100%. I think definitely I love the content you put out. I think you're hilarious. And, anybody that is, obviously anybody's free to follow you, but I think if anybody does have a family or, any mums, any dads, anything like that, that are looking for somebody that is really like them, you're definitely the go-to because, you've managed to do this journey the right way, but also still be the person that you've always been. And it's hard, I think, doing this journey when you don't have it all sort of figured out. And for you, definitely sounds like you've got it all figured out, which obviously your success is a product of that. So thank you again so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've learned things from you here that I didn't know already, which is amazing. And yes, thank you so much, guys, for listening. And yeah, we'll be back again next week with another episode of This Is My Journey. Catch you then.